Hello and welcome to the new season of the Drawn and Redrawn, the Making of India's Internal Boundaries podcast. This is a part of a larger India State Stories project that explores the evolution of India's political and administrative boundaries. This project is an undertaking by the Centre for Legislative Education and Research at Flame University in Pune. In this new season, we embark on a journey through the fascinating histories and narratives of each Indian state and union territories, exploring the pivotal events, influential personalities, and societal transformations that have shaped the subcontinent. In this 12th episode, we will listen to the story of the creation of tribal state of Jharkhand. This episode is based on a corresponding article written by our team at India State Stories. These articles have been converted to audio conversations with the help of Google's Notebook LM. You can find the relevant article link in the show notes. Now, let's dive into the conversation.
It is so good to be back. And today, we're jumping into the story of a state that I think a lot of us see on the map and just assume was always there. We're talking about Jharkhand.
Yes, Jharkhand. It feels so permanent now, doesn't it? That distinct, mineral-rich plateau region right there in eastern India.
Exactly. It looks like it was always meant to be. But digging into the material for this, I was genuinely surprised. The road to getting that border drawn was, well, it was anything but inevitable.
No, not even close. I mean, you look at the official date, Jharkhand becomes a state on November 15, 2000.
Right.
But the actual struggle to get there, that was a marathon, not a sprint. We're talking about a fight that spanned more than 60 years.
60 years. That's incredible. That's, what, 2 or 3 generations of people campaigning for this?
It is. And it wasn't just a straight line of campaigning. It was this cycle of organizing, protesting, winning elections, then losing momentum, and then having to completely reinvent the movement.
Which is what makes this so fascinating. The story isn't just about drawing a line on a map. It's really about a clash of ideas, isn't it?
It is. It's about how this region, which was so deeply embedded in Bihar, managed to carve out its own identity against some pretty powerful headwinds.
And one of the biggest headwinds, based on the notes, was this idea that states had to be formed based on language. We're going to talk about that linguistic crap quite a bit, I think.
We absolutely are. That is the central conflict of this story. How do you argue for a state based on tribal identity, culture, and ecology in a system that's obsessed with drawing lines based on what language people speak?
So that's our mission today.
Wow.
Unpacking how they broke out of that trap.
Exactly.
Okay, so before we get to the Olympian hockey captain, which is, I have to say, my favorite part of this whole story, let's set the historical stage. We need to rewind way back.
To the very beginning of the administrative map.
Yeah. If I'm looking at a map of British India, say around 1910, what am I seeing in that region?
Well, you wouldn't see anything called Jharkhand. The key date here is 1912. That's really the starting point. On March 22nd of that year, the British created this massive administrative unit called the Bihar and Orissa province.
Okay, so that's basically modern-day Bihar, Jharkhand, and Odisha all rolled into one.
All in one giant bucket. It was huge. And, a bit unwieldy. The British realized this pretty quickly because later that same year, they split it again. They carved out Orissa, now Odisha, and the rest was just called the Bihar province.
And that is the parent entity for our story.
That's the one. After independence in 1947, it's officially renamed Bihar State. And for a while, those borders were pretty solid.
Mostly solid. I did spot one interesting little adjustment in the notes from 1948. It looks minor, but the reason for it seems to set up the whole conflict we're about to discuss.
You're talking about Kharswan and Saraikela.
That's it. 2 princely states. And they were moved from the Orissa sphere into Bihar. Why?
And here we get our first taste of the linguistic trap. The official reason given for moving them to Bihar was, and I'm quoting here, linguistic considerations.
Hear that phrase.
It's the key. The argument was that the administrative and spoken language had stronger ties to Hindi-speaking Bihar than Odia-speaking Orissa. So never mind what the local tribal population might have wanted. The language logic won.
It's a sign of things to come. And 1948 was a busy year for map-making in general, right? There were a whole bunch of other smaller princely states being absorbed into Bihar.
The non-salute states, yes. A whole list of them.
I have the list right here, and I think it's worth reading out just to get a sense of how complex this Bihar entity was becoming. It wasn't just one solid block.
Go for it.
Okay, let's see. We have Morampur, Darbhanga, Ramgarh, Ranka, Jagdishpur, Dumran, Dingwara, Tajapur, Banaili, Kara, Baur, and Shinur. That's 12 kingdoms.
It's quite a list. Sounds like it would dramatically change the map.
I think so.
But the key here is that these were non-salute states. In the British hierarchy, the big important states got gun salutes. These got 0.
So they were geographically pretty small.
Exactly, more like large feudal estates than actual kingdoms. So while it was an administrative headache, on a map, it looked more like filling in the holes in a slice of Swiss cheese than actually making the cheese bigger.
I like that. Filling in the Swiss cheese. Okay, so the map is set. We have this huge Bihar state. But down in the south of that state, something is brewing.
Yes, in the Chotanagpur Plateau and the Santhal Parganas.
A region that is, culturally and geographically just night and day from the flat Gangetic plains of northern Bihar.
Completely different world. The south is hilly, forested, full of minerals, and home to a large Adivasi population. They felt, correctly, that the government in Patna just didn't get them.
So they started to organize. And this goes way back. The Adivasi Mahasabha was formed in 1938.
That's the seed. That's where it all begins. But, a movement needs a voice, a leader, and this is where one of the most remarkable figures in Indian political history steps in.
I've been waiting for this. Jaipal Singh Munda.
An absolute legend.
We talk about leaders of statehood movements. They're usually lawyers or career politicians.
Yeah.
This guy was an Olympian.
Not just an Olympian, he was the captain. He captained the Indian hockey team to its first ever Olympic gold medal in Amsterdam in 1928.
It's such an incredible crossover. It gives him this unique kind of authority, doesn't it?
It does. Think about it. He was a Munda Adivasi, so he had deep roots and credibility on the ground. But he was also Oxford educated. He was an international sports star. He could walk into parliament and command respect.
He could bridge those two worlds.
Perfectly. So he takes the reins of the movement, and in 1949, he makes a brilliant strategic move. He changes the name.
From the Adivasi Mahasabha to the Jharkhand Party.
And that's not just a rebrand?
No, because Adivasi refers to a specific group of people. Jharkhand refers to a place, a region.
Precisely. He realized that a movement based only on tribal identity would always be a minority. By calling it the Jharkhand Party, he was opening the door to all the non-tribals, the workers, the traders, everyone who lived in that region and felt neglected by the state government.
He was saying, this is about the land we all share.
And it worked. The proof came in the 1952 Bihar Legislative Assembly elections. The Jharkhand Party shocked everyone. They won 32 seats.
32. That's a huge number. That made them the main opposition party, didn't it?
It did. For a moment there in the early 50s, it really felt like statehood was just around the corner.
But it wasn't. The momentum stalled. What happened?
Internal divisions started to creep in, but the killing blow really came in 1963 when the party merged with the Indian National Congress.
They merged. They gave up their separate identity.
They did. Congress was the dominant party, and they essentially absorbed the Jharkhand leadership. It diluted their voice, and the movement went quiet for years.
Wow. But before that merger, there was one other big attempt. The States Reorganization Commission, the SRC.
Ah, yes. The Great Heartbreak of 1955.
So in 1953, the SRC is formed to redraw India's map,
Yeah.
and everyone is submitting their claims.
And of course, the Jharkhand party submitted a detailed proposal. Bifurcate Bihar, create Jharkhand. They laid out the case cultural distinction, geographic uniqueness, economic neglect.
Sounds like a solid argument. So why did the SRC reject it?
One word: language. The SRC was completely fixated on the linguistic model of statehood. Andhra for Telugu speakers, Tamil Nadu for Tamil speakers, and so on.
And Jharkhand didn't have one single dominant language.
Exactly. It was a mosaic. You had Santali, Mundari, Ho, Kuruk, and a significant number of Hindi speakers, too. Because they didn't fit neatly into a linguistic box, the SRC said, sorry, your claim is invalid.
So your unique tribal identity, your culture, none of that mattered.
Not to the SRC in 1955. It was a crushing blow.
And that, combined with the merger, basically put the movement on ice for a decade.
It did, but it didn't kill it. Let's jump forward to the 1970s. The movement comes back, but with a different feel.
A harder edge, it seems. This is the era of the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, or JMM, formed in 1972.
And a new generation of leaders. Shibu Soren, Vinod Bihari Mahato, and A.K. Roy.
And they changed the argument, didn't they? It wasn't just about cultural identity anymore.
Not at all. The JMM broadened the fight. They started talking about land alienation, about the impacts of industrialization. They framed it as a case of internal colonialism.
Internal colonialism. That's a powerful term.
It resonated. They pointed out that the region's vast mineral wealth, the coal, the iron, was being extracted to fuel the rest of India, while the local tribal people were being displaced and left in poverty.
So it became a struggle for economic justice, not just cultural recognition.
Exactly. It became a class struggle, mobilizing workers and farmers alongside the tribal communities. And then in the late 80s and 90s, you get another shot of adrenaline.
The youth. The All Jharkhand Students Union, AJSU.
And whenever students get involved, things escalate. The AJSU brought a new militancy to the movement strikes, economic blockades. They made it impossible for the governments in Patna and Delhi to ignore the issue any longer.
So all this pressure builds up through the 90s, and we finally arrive at the year 2000. The bill to create the new state is actually in Parliament.
The finish line is in sight, but of course there's one last twist.
The name.
The name. The central government at the time wanted to call the new state eventual.
Which means forest region. Sounds harmless enough.
It sounds descriptive, but for the movement leaders, it was an attempt to erase their history. Eventual was a geographic label. Jharkhand was the name they had fought and died for over 60 years.
It was the name of the struggle itself.
Exactly. Naming it Jharkhand was an acknowledgement of that entire history of resistance.
And in the end,
They won. An amendment was passed, and the new state was officially named Jharkhand.
and the date of his formation, November 15, 2000, that was also significant, right?
Very. It's the birth anniversary of Birsa Munda, the legendary tribal freedom fighter. A perfect symbolic gesture.
So on day one, Jharkhand is born, carved out of the 18 southern districts of Bihar.
That's the starting point. But the map didn't stop changing, and this is why you should really check out the maps in the show notes.
What happened after 2000?
Well, state building is a process. Since its formation, 6 new districts have been created to improve administration.
And some name changes as well.
Yes, 4 districts have had their names changed, often to reflect local history and identity more accurately. The state is still evolving.
It's an incredible arc. From the Adivasi Mahasabha in 1938 to a living, evolving state in the 21st century.
A 62-year journey.
When you look back at that whole story, what's the big lesson? What does Jharkhand teach us about how India's map gets made?
I think it teaches us that the rules can be changed if you fight long enough and hard enough. For decades, the rule was one state, one language. Jharkhand broke that rule.
It broke the mold.
It did. It proved that a shared history of struggle, a common geography, and a distinct tribal identity could be a valid basis for statehood. It showed that democracy eventually has to listen to the people.
That's a really powerful takeaway. That identity is about more than just the language you speak. It's about the land you live on and the history you share.
And that's a lesson that goes far beyond just Jharkhand.
Absolutely. So, a reminder to everyone, do check out those maps from 2001, 2011, and 2021 in the show notes. Seeing the districts multiply really brings this story to life.
It really does.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the making of Jharkhand, a story of patience, reinvention, and finally victory.
Indeed.
We'd love to hear what you think. Did you know about the hockey captain's role? Or the eventual name debate? Let us know.
It was a pleasure to break this one down.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Drawn and Redrawn. We'll see you in the next deep dive.